G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to the Round 5 SuperCoach Stock Market video. Hope you all had a ripper of a week. Before I get into it, just want to give a big thank you to all of the new members that have just signed up for the channel. If you're interested, it's $3.99 a month or $1 a week. All the proceeds do go to Beyond Blue and you'll get the SuperCoach stock market slides as well as my notes. We have member Skype chats. You get a little icon or a badge or a symbol next to your name. So if you want to do that, feel free. It'd be much appreciated. Goes to a really good cause. So big thank you to Colin Young, Carl Meaney, John Smith, Rod Todd, and Harry Kitharidis. I'm not too sure if I've pronounced that one right, Harry, but you've been a great supporter right from the start, so really do appreciate that one, buddy. But look, onto the stock market video. Actually, no, before I do that, sorry, a couple of other things. I will put out a Q&A video. It'll probably be up Friday morning, so if you've left a comment or a question on my round review video, I will get to them and I will do a Q&A video, make sure that I get to every one of your questions. And you will notice this week that I do have an 8 ball next to particular players' names. I've been asked a lot lately, where do you rate particular players? You know, who's your top 8, 10 in this position, that position? So what I've done is I've put an 8 ball next to those blokes, so I think will either be top 8 or top 10 according to which position it is. Midfield, I've given a top 10, defenders more of a top 8 type thing. So if you see an 8 ball next to that player, in my opinion, at this stage, they're looking likely for that top 8 to 10 anyway. But back to the stock market video now. We do have a few tempting options this week. You can see them on top of the chart. We've got Braden Prus, negative break even of 93. And also Malcolm Roses, who is a forward for Gold Coast, who is tempting some people. We've got Timmy English in the middle there, who I think is almost close to being a must-have. Matty Rowell, question marks with him over the moment, and even Aaron Hall. He's a must trade out if you're one of the few coaches that currently have him. He is absolutely gone ski with a hammy. So a lot to talk about this week. I know that some people are even thinking about using a boost to jump on a couple of these options. So definitely a lot to talk about. I'll stop the introduction here and we'll start off with the 500k plus defenders. At the top of the list this week is Alex Witherden with a nice 3-round average of 122. I mentioned last week, he's always displayed a ceiling and the ability to score well, but consistency is historically what has set him back. What was the reason for his big score? Some would say only the 23 disposals and 3 contested. That isn't anything special, but 20 out of those 23 touches were kicks. And he went at close to an impeccable 95% efficiency, just elite ball use and didn't waste a kick. 134 points, and apart from his low score of 63 in round 2, he didn't play round 1, he has scored 106 and 127 to go along with his 130 plus, so has shown consistency in his last 3. The ball is spending a lot of time in the West Coast defence, as we know, took over 50% of the kick out, sharing those duties with Hearn, so some things to like about this pick, but just not the type of pick for me. James Sicily was on him, off him in the preseason. Seems like a pretty obvious miss in hindsight, but I wasn't comfortable for some reason running him and Hewitt. But he's had a strong, consistent year to date with regular tons, already gone up around 60k, and after this week, that should be closer to 75. 126 points on the weekend, took an impressive 15 marks, something we're not seeing from Ridley, for example, and great to see he even managed to score well when playing more of an accountable role at times on Cameron. I currently see him as a top 10 defender. You can see the 8 ball here, and if you're looking to bring someone in around the 500k mark, then I give him the thumbs up. Georgie Hewitt, an official must-have now, no question about it. Still presents value at his price unbelievably. Massive first half, 7 clearances, 21 touches, 11 contested, at an impressive 91% efficiency as well. A little quieter like many of his Carlton teammates in the third, but then hit back again in the fourth, came out strong and finished with 111 points. I mentioned in my round review that all the talk was about Chera pre-season, but Georgie Boy has to be the best recruit of the year for any team, in my opinion. Stephen May, new symbol for him. It's the Monopoly kick-out symbol, 57 points at quarter time. GWS kick 0-5, and he lapped up every one of those free points with his kick in Monopoly. I keep on waiting for a poor score, but he's in ripper form, an ultra pod, but I just couldn't go there personally after owning him last year. Sinclair, a pod I recommended last week, started in defence, got involved early, a really clean type player, usually not a good thing to be so flexible, but he can score well in both roles. 9 disposals in the first for 32 points, and then just kept it going. 18 kicks, 9 handballs, over 500 metres gained. This guy is a serious player and extremely damaging, and if he continues to play off half-back, teams may look to actually play a defensive forward on him to stop his run and carry. A possibility that Ash may go to him this weekend, not out of the question for mine. But apart from that, I see really good signs for him moving forward. He's showing me enough to be confident to select him in my side. I'm not in a position to do so personally at this stage, but if I was, I'd highly consider him. Crispy consecutive tons for the first time this year. All of a sudden, after a rocky start to the relationship, owners are now back in love with Jack, looking a lot better in his midfield role. 114 points on the weekend, massive 36 touches, 11 clearances, 8 tackles, a real workhorse type game, but left a monster at the door, only going at 63% efficiency. Tommy Stewart, huge game of the weekend with 129, one of the most consistent scorers you'll see in the game. A bunch of kick-ins, playing loose man in defence. If you want a safe as houses premium defender, as the symbol in the note section suggests, then Tommy is your man, will rarely let you down. Pendle's welcome to the backline, mate. An interesting option that we're presented with here. Been spending time down back as well as playing through the middle. Actually played a defensive role on Neil for parts of the game, which was interesting and slightly unexpected for me, but still had the 27 touches, 98 SuperCoach points, just 2 under the ton. One that I would just wait on for now and put on your watch list. A chance to finish top 10 by the end of the season. Not exactly sure though at this stage. And Doc had his poorest game of the year with an 86. A poor day for all of the Carlton defenders. Hopefully he can come down in price a bit for non-owners. Still looking like a top 6 defender for sure. Richie, not flying at the moment, just keep him on your watch list. Zorko, now a defender. I must admit, I didn't believe the preseason rumours that he'd be transitioning into the back line, but it has eventuated. It's really funny watching him play. Seems okay for the first half, and then around the mid-stage of the third quarter, really gets a limp on. He says he's feeling better every week, but surely at some stage they've got to rest him for a week. Been kicking some absolute darts out of defence, setting up some nice plays. We know he's a star, but it's just that Achilles that makes me nervous. A bit similar to an Aaron Hall. High upside, but that upside comes as a risk. I'll be passing, but definitely one to watch. Jordan Dawson, just chugging along, 101 the weekend. Has some big quarters, has some quiet quarters, a bit in and out of games so far. Playing mainly off a wing, got 24 touches, 18 of those were kicks, went at 83%. Massive 739 metres gained, so no surprise with his big left boot. And he had 5 tackles, which was handy as well. Only the 6 contested, I think, was the main reason why that score wasn't higher. Ryan, don't know if it's just me, but tends to avoid kicking across the ground. Just loves to go long down the line, but not a pick for me. 119 for break even. Aaron Hall, well, the ball was spending a lot of time in the Roos defence, and he cashed in the first with a 36-point quarter. Continued on with his good work in the second until ping. There goes a hammy. It was a risk every owner was aware of when they selected him. They rolled the dice on Hall's fitness and unfortunately lost out. If you traded him in before the price rises, he's only averaged around 80 and lost 61k. A bit of a mini disaster, but I can understand why some people did, as he was the ultimate risk versus reward pick, and if he's fit, he's basically the D1 of the comp. I must trade out now, and not sure if I'd even take the risk on him when he comes back after this. Seagull might be a nice downgrade option soon. Hit the ton with 24 touches. That would have been more, but the Eagles only kicked 4 behinds. Only the 2 kickouts for the match for Seagull, with the Lizard taking the other 2. A highish break even, so wait for now. And you'll hear me say this a lot, chuck him on your watch list. Jordan Ridley, one of the more disappointing starting picks in our defence this year. Nothing's really going right. The game style doesn't suit him. Others are taking points. His avenues to scoring seem more limited than some other premium options we can select. And other players like Sicily and Hewitt are majorly outscoring him. Only the 5 marks on the weekend. That tells me he just isn't getting involved enough. Had 17 disposals, 16 were kicks. So nice to see he's getting 15 plus kicks, but 7 of those came directly from kickouts. So again, not getting involved or getting enough of the ball. On a positive note, did take close to 70% of the kick-ins, which was nice. Just imagine if they had been shared around more though. That 82 could have easily been, say, a mid-60s score. And Jaden Short, miserable game for him on the weekends. Pretty similar stats to Ridley actually, but this is just one I'm going to ride off. I've got a new symbol for him this week, the forgiveness symbol, and this will be reserved for players that have been on fire but have just an out of character, bad type of game. Hopefully bounces back and gives us 100 plus this week. On to the defenders, 250 to 500k. The man up the top is a real pod with an ownership of under 1%. To put it simply, Bailey's got no friends when it comes to SuperCoach. Sorry, I'm laughing at my own dad joke material there. That's pretty bad, isn't it? The old Bailey's got no friends. But in all seriousness, even though he's got noob DPP status as a defensive mid, I think he's a bit of a trap. Nick Dacos, my plan is to swing him back into my defence this week. Just leave him there as a D5, D6 until the buys. Most likely my last upgrade. New DPP status is much appreciated. Campbell, 68 points on the weekend. Just another trap for mine. Hingy obviously didn't play last week. Originally he was listed as an omission and then an injury out. So fingers crossed he can come back in for us this week and continue to rise in price. Justin McInerney, quieted this week with an 84, 24 touches and kicked a goal, but the majority of those touches were uncontested, and I think he's a pod that could go either way at the moment. Paddy Mccartney filled in for Hinge in my team this week, did his job with a 68, only the 10 touches, but as I've mentioned, did his job. He'll continue to make some more coin. I'm not chopping him for a little while, mainly because of his great job security and those reliable 60 to 80 type scores. Dyson Hipple cleaned up like a vacuum cleaner on the weekend. 34 touches, 13 contested at 76% efficiency. Starting off halfback, 143 points has been his best return in a long time. A low break even, but I don't really see him as a top 10 defender. And Luke McDonald will be interesting to see what happens with him, given the fact Hall's gone down. May lead to an increase in scoring output, but last week only the 16 disposals. So I suppose a wait and see, but lovely to see him gifted some DPP. Makes him a potentially relevant player. And Healy Chapman, as Jared Healy said, had a nervous start, a few mistakes. Took a contested intercept mark, which was great, but then turns it straight over. A few fumbles here and there. Miss an easy uncontested intercept in the second, which he'd normally gobble up. Good thing is, I suppose, that he read the ball really well in that situation, was playing off his opponent at the time. But it was a bit of a train wreck of a first half, with only the unused sub, Darcy Tucker, below him score-wise. He found it hard to add to his total in the third, with the ball living in Freo's forward half. In last, he actually had a red-hot, probably 2-minute period, I reckon, where he got 5 touches. Gotta love some junk time points, but all he got for his 6 final quarter touches was 13 points. Outscored, or underscored, sorry, in my opinion, but surely there's a bit of owner's bias there, I think. But as a pod, that was a killer for owners. If he scores 80 and 90 this week, he makes some coin, but even if he hits that projected score, his break-even will be in the low 90s next week. So you can hold off if you want. And don't get me wrong, I still may. But he's in my trade-out plans this week as I currently speak. And I'm happy enough to give his starting spot in my back 6 to Dacos for the time being. Houston had a decent season to date. A burn man from the past for me, though. Strikes him out of my personal calculations. A bit up and down, unfortunately, but if he can add some consistency to his game this year, then he becomes more relevant. 108 points, 21 kicks on the weekend was nice, though. Saad had a poor game like his backline pals, someone I'd pass on. Bowie, it's exactly the same story as last week, basically, so I won't repeat myself. You can hold if you think he'll give you 90s. If not, feel free to chop him and move him on. Did have a lovely intercept mark and then goal on the weekend, though. Lockheed Whitfield, his final score didn't really tell the full story to me. His role actually looked a lot better. He was lively with a couple of 1-2s, had a good start, was racking up the ball with ease with 11 touches in the first quarter. Unfortunately, his ball use yet again let him down, which was evident in his Supercoach to Dream Team ratio of 19 to 39 in the first. Then a couple of minutes into the second, cops a knock. Did come back on, but looked a little sore. Again, a bit of a common theme here with Whitfield getting these slight knocks, but he did start to use the ball more effectively. Ended up with 25 touches. Ball use wasn't shocking, but it was his lack of contested possessions which I think really hurt his score. Over 100 Dream Team points for only 73 Supercoach points. It's not ideal, but he looks much better than week 1 and 2. I'm far from a happy owner and wouldn't mind getting out of the pick, but there's enough there to salvage something from here on, I think. And JC, new DPP, but wouldn't touch him. And the same goes for Hearn. The fire symbol, that's been removed, but the Mr. Burns symbol, that does remain. On to the defenders under 250k. Not a lot to see here, but the man up the top of the list now has his own personal symbol. We have the noddy head. For the younger viewers, go back, do yourself a favour, and check out a noddy book. You got big ears, the gollywogs. I'm not actually sure. Can you say that these days? I'm not too sure. No offense intended. Honestly, they're literally. They're the names of the characters from the book. But moving on. I had him on field replacing Cripps, so a massive win for me. Really nice start to the first quarter, getting involved. I really looked at him closely. And certainly seems to play out. Really nice left foot. Lovely little assist to Walters in the second. By half-time, had the third most metres gained for Freo. It was on 48 points. Another stunning delivery into 50 early on the third. And then Tabner converted for goal. Then he gave another assist to the big Tab. Big start to the third quarter. And halfway through was Freo's second highest score with 79 points. Then had a bad turnover, but then made a ripper spoil to make up for it immediately. Just great to see. Ended the third on 90 points. So 42 points in that third quarter, if you don't mind. A little bit quieter in the fourth. Copped a little corky from memory. And also had an awesome play where he had 4 bounces streamed down the skinny side, but just ran too far. His kick actually hit Darcy, so a potential boost to his score was really missed there. Finished on 103 points and was just an all-round game. Job security should be rock solid for the next few weeks, at least, I think, after that performance. And players like Tucker, well, they'll just have to continue to wait in the wings, I think. If you don't bring him in, well, you can't. You just can't bring him in. He's a miss, unfortunately, and he's a big miss. He's a really handy option to have on the field, either in your back line or in your midfield. I have had a couple of questions this week coming through. Can I select him now? I just don't think that you can. For the amount of money he's already gone up, for me, I think that the ship sailed, unfortunately. BZT, a big no from me. Decent average of 73, but not for that price. Kruger actually looked okay to me. Gives a good contest. Impacted the scoreboard with 2 goals, 2 for his 78 points. 12 touches, 8 of those were contested. Was a good target, I thought, but for almost 200k, I think I'm going to pass whoever. De Koning took a while to make his way into the game on the weekend, but job security, that seems solid. Just let him slow burn on the pine. Not someone you want to play on the field, if possible, though. Perez, here's an easy pass. 10 touches for 41 points. Won't cut it at his slightly inflated price. Gibcus, I assume, comes back in. Not 100% though. And Wanganeen Malira, working his way into AFL football. If you own him, hold for a bit longer, and then just flip when you want. On to the 500k plus mids, and the man at the top of the list, Baz Lenker, is in a great vein of form. His 2022 scores to date are 139, 80, 122, and 135. Has not gone below 31 disposals in any game, and had a career high, actually don't quote me on that, but I don't think he's gone above 43 possessions before. Over 600 metres gained, and how's this for some time on ground for a midfielder? 94%. The bloke must have a massive tank. He'll be around the 550k mark by the end of next week if all things go good, and he's basically your pod alternative to Tom Green. You know, both young guns, both have upside, but if I have to decide, it's Tom Green for me. But Baz would be such a fun player to have in your team. I love watching him play, and it'd be really fun to be able to cheer him on with a little bit more gusto. Titch has the fantasy pig from the past returned to his former glory. 119 and a 142 in consecutive weeks. It's a little too early to tell for me, and I want to see this form for at least another fortnight before I would consider him. The main issue with waiting is that obviously he's now looking to go back up in price. I think O'Connor got the best of him in the first half, keeping him quiet, but Titch really lifted in the second half, winning 17 contested disposals in what was, well, vintage Brownlow medal type stuff. One theory, apart from Coach Mitchell wanting to blood the younger generation of mids, was that Titch's groin just wasn't quite right at the start of the season. If this is now improved, that may be a reason for his scoring spike. I'm not exactly sure, but look, if you trust him and you think that he's back, you can jump on him. But if you're like me and still have some lingering question marks, I think it's all good for a pass. Jack McRae, the undisputed king of Supercoach, the biggest must-have in the game right now, and killing the 50% of the competition that for some reason don't own him. Electric start to the game on the weekend, had some really important possessions, some goal assists, 9 disposals at 100%, earning 46 points at quarter time. The only dog to really continue that good form in the second, landing on 84 points at half time. Lovely long-range goal in the third, which was nice and kept his score ticking over. Now, there was a little bit of an issue here. He was taken off for a concussion test. Bad news, we thought, uh-oh, this isn't good, but in good news, he was assessed as being okay, returned to the field, and just really continued where he left off, finishing the game with a 150 plus score. Should be in your captaincy plans each week, and if you got no loop, just straight out see him. Callum Mills, without a doubt, has top 8 potential. Only thing that concerns me is his Achilles. Highest meters gained for Sydney, 17 contested possessions, also led the Swans for clearances. If you trust his body, then feel free to jump on him as a pod. Has a friendly break even this week and looking to rise in price. Rory Laird, a real pod, started the season late with his hand injury, but on return has punched out a 93, a 143 and a 120 last week. 26 disposals with 14 of those contested after racking up 38 touches the week before. Looking good, and I think one to put on your watch list. Darcy Parish, a talented player as we know, and a decent score of 113, 9 touches, 31 points at quarter time, continued on that strong form, finishing on 19 touches and 75 points at halftime, 4 clearances also. At the end of the day, finished with 33 touches, 7 clearances for the match. Look, he clearly loves to attack, but there was some damning vision of him on the weekend. Seems like he, and I'm guessing a fair few of his teammates, just aren't working hard enough without the ball. He'll run hard one way, but not the other. And this has to be a big reason why Essendon's season is in tatters at the moment. It'll be up to blokes like Parish to lead the red and black resurgence and try to salvage something from the year. But will he step up and increase his work rate? That's up to him. Had a massive Anzac Day last year, and that was really the start of his big run, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him go bananas, as I expect that he'll be well aware of the media heat that's surrounding him at the moment, and he'll want to silence the naysayers, in my opinion. So, a bloke that it's really risky to jump on, but yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see him bounce back to a little bit more form. Tom Green, I think he's a real deal, and I've got him on the border of the top 8 to 10 mids this year. Not sure how Toby Green's return will affect the setup at the Giants, but don't think it'll affect Tom too much. A great start to last week's game, just a contested beast. Gets opportunities around goal. In the first had a shot, but didn't convert. Missed another set shot in the second, but just great to see that he is at least getting those opportunities and seems to get them every week. Had 14 touches at halftime for 59 points, and if he does kick truly, that score, that's closer to an 80. Had 20 touches in the second half. Again, missed another set shot for goal to end up with 3 behind. So a big score left at the door through inaccuracy and still hit a score of 115. He now deserves his own symbol, so I've added another one to the list. He has the green bull. Jelly, I just don't like the pick. Did have a massive first half, gathering 20 touches on about 70 points at half time. 33 disposals and 81% was nice. 14 contested, but only the 12 kicks. 106 points, but nothing screams pick me, and a pretty easy pass me at this stage. Jack Steele had a great start to the game with 8 disposals in the first, 5 contested for a very healthy 45 points, and this pretty much set the tone for him. Finished the game with 27 possessions, 7 marks, and 6 tackles for 131 points. Only gone over 30 disposals in 40% of his games so far, so it'd be nice for him to find a few more touches. Will be interesting to see if GWS tag him this week. Maybe they don't, as he's a tough man to tag, but that may be a slight concern just for this week. He's literally getting better and better each week. Just facts. Score in order from round 1, 87, 111, 121, 125, and at 131. Definitely going in an upward trajectory. Still lost 45k off his starting price, so a very fine trade-in option in my opinion. I'd love to have him in my side, and I do plan to as soon as possible. And Bont started forward, lovely handball in the opening minute for the first goal assist of the game. Shot for goal, hit the post, then on transition, found himself by himself, basically in the square, then kicked an easy one. A couple of minutes later, won a one-on-one contest, little check side goal. He was killing it, only with 5 touches, but at 47 points after the first quarter. Then did absolutely nothing really in the second, unsided, quiet again in the third. Ended up though with 3 goals and 103 points for his efforts. Was spending a lot of time forward, particularly in the first half, then rotated a little bit in the middle. I don't mind him at his price, but I really want my Uber mids to be spending the large majority of their time in the midfield, and with Bont's current role, he just doesn't really seem to fit the bill. Lachie Neale, similar to McRae, make sure you own him, and more often than not, he'll give you a reliable captaincy score. Had Pendles for company on the weekend, but that didn't really slow him down. Finished with 117 SuperCoach points, and I think again we'll be looking to go pretty big against the Suns. Now Pendles spent a little bit of time on him last week. Did the Suns do the same thing? If they do, I have a feeling that Rao may be the one to play that role. Brayshaw, an okay start to the game. Bad turnover in the first led to a Cutler shot for goal, which did lose him points, but really hit back in the second. Finished the half on 18 disposals and 70 points. Finished the game with 34 touches and 132 points. Did hit the scoreboard as well, which is a bonus, and I think it's now safe to say that he is a top 10 midfielder. Will be a major tag target for opposition teams, but is starting to work through those with the more experience he gets. And anytime he is let off the leash, he will find the pill with ease and can pile on the points in a very short period of time. His break even is in the red, but that's certainly an achievable one. I really like him as a player, and I do think that he is a buy now. Remember though that he does have a low score in him if he gets really tight tag. Walsh had a huge start to the game, and to say he was busy was an understatement. 16 disposals in the first quarter, and he really made a statement. 47 points for his efforts. Obviously couldn't keep that disposal rate up. Had 23 at halftime and was on 74 points. Ended with 38 touches and 128 SuperCoach points. Ball use hurt him a bit, but really good signs. It's a real possibility that we could have the starting Carlton midfield minus Pitney in our SuperCoach teams. Cripper, Walsh and Hewitt all playing really good footy. Benny Keys just keeps on keeping on. Very unlucky and possibly disrespectful that I don't have an 8 ball on him. On to one that is just like a dagger in the heart for me. Mr. Took, the trademark Miller, really sloppy with his disposal early, which hurt him. He was on -2 after 3 possessions. But then in Took style, contested mark, takes a bounce, lovely delivery inside 50 for a goal assist. 250 metres gained in the first. 9 touches, but only at 44%, had 27 points. Kept his score ticking over in the second, but still, I was waiting for something. At the end of the third, I was still waiting, and then at the end of the game, I was still waiting. What was I waiting for? Well, all that I was waiting for was a single tackle, just one, from a man who was one of the best tacklers in the comp. It hurts my brain to think that he hasn't laid one solitary tackle in 2 weeks of football. That's 8 quarters of football. Blows the mind. Now, is this because he needs to get on his bike and get on the outside due to Rao's lack of outside game? Maybe. Is he carrying a niggle? Maybe, but I don't think so. I simply don't have the answer to this at this stage, and it's just a lot of guesswork. All of a sudden, who I thought would be a really reliable captaincy option now becomes a risky option in current form. So, oh, look, you know that I'm keeping the faith. You know how much I love him. But look, back to last week anyway, he did end the game with 107 points. That came from 32 touches and obviously 0 tackles, but a man that I will stick fat with. I'm confident he'll come good, but for non-owners, you'll be able to get yourselves an absolute bargain when he bottoms out in a week or two. Track a possible trade-in option this week. If you think he'll finish top 8 to 10, then he presents value at his current price, a cheaper alternative to his good mate Clary. Had a few down games where he scored an 85 and a 98, but not super low type stuff. Also showing his ceiling with a 163 and a 129 and a few avenues to score. Kicked a goal early, which was nice, but a few frees against went against him, but still managed to be on 62 points at halftime, 116 by the end of the game from 30 disposals and 2 goals. If you want to bring this man in, then absolutely go for it. Cripper apparently just needs to get through training and tick a couple of boxes and he's good to go. I was actually expecting him to miss this week also, but it'd be a real bonus if he got up, particularly for those who held on to him. Selfishly, I'd love to see him come out and go 150 just to really punish those that abandon him. Wines, hopefully he's back this week. Should drop a fair bit over the next couple of weeks. You know, one of those cheap, fallen premium pods, I suppose, for your watch list. Both gone a little cold with an 88 on the weekend, a pass for me. And Oliver, big first quarter with over 40 points. It would have been laughing, smiling from ear to ear. No company from De Boer or Ash, which is a luxury this bloke has not experienced playing against GWS in a long time, if ever. Ended up with 118 points and firmly on my radar as a trade-in option next week. Should lose some more money with his current break-even, and someone who I view anyway as basically a lock for a top 8 midfield average. He's just done it year upon year right from the start of his career. On to the midfielders, 250 to 500k. The man up the top, Jared Berry, is tracking on nicely SuperCoach-wise. Some decent on-field scores and making money is all we wanted. I miss having him in my side, but at the same time, that shoulder seems to... it just seems to be just hanging on. The main risk here is that goes early or mid-game, but he's continuing to soldier on with the pain every week. Keep for now and then flip in the next few weeks would be my advice. Seb Ross, I wouldn't be getting sucked into him. I think he's a trap. Never had a full season of elite scoring. Tends to butcher the ball, which is a SuperCoach no-no, and comes at an extremely awkward price. I'd be gobsmacked if he becomes keeper material, which he'd have to be at the price you're paying for him. Caldwell, 3-rounder of 82. Still some cash to be made here, so I'd just be holding for now and then chopping when that average and break-even match up. Horn Francis, a nightmare first quarter, finishing in the negative, -3, I think it was. Just terrible. 2 kicks, I think it was, at 0% efficiency, only on 15 points at halftime, upped his efficiency to 28, which was nice, got up to 35, if you don't mind, at three-quarter time, and don't even know what he ended up the game on, but it was Clanger City, unfortunately, even a free kick against in the last 3 seconds, so some may look to trade, which I can understand, but I'm holding for now, and I'll assess in a week or two. If he goes back to his 80 to 90 type scores, I'll hold him until around the buys. If he doesn't, then he may be a bloke that I do look to upgrade. Pat Lip didn't attend a CBA on the weekend, but still managed to score okay. With his new DPP status, the chance he finishes in the top 10 for averages, that 8 ball is right on the borderline there, but a talented player, starved opportunities at the Dogs, and I think he really wants to make his mark this year. I do have the 8 ball on him, as I said, he's borderline, but I do rate his talent. I wouldn't look to trade in now, but one that I would keep on the watch list. If you're a current owner, you'd be absolutely wrapped with his new DPP status. Mr. Matthew Rao, I tell you what, some major question marks are starting to arise over this pick. After round 1, we were all celebrating. This bloke's going to be a keeper. He's going to go off. We've seen 170s in his first few games of AFL football. If you haven't got him, he's a must-have. He's a huge miss. Bring him into your side ASAP. He's probably even safe to go early on. If you did go early on him and you missed that round 1 score, you'd be absolutely spewing. Now, I did mention in my round review video that you've got one of 2 choices. And again, it's really obvious. One is that you hold the faith. You think to yourself, now I select him for a reason. We've seen his ceiling. He's got all the talent in the world. He can turn it around. We wait for one of those spike games, wait for one of those 130 plus types that we know that he can deliver, and then his price will obviously start to go up and he'll get to that 500k mark. Remember, at the start of the season, or after round 1 at least, 500k looked like an absolute shoo-in, an absolute guarantee, but all of a sudden, we're considering trading him out at 401,400. So option 1 is obviously to keep the faith with this pick. Option 2 is to get out while you can now. His break-even is currently sitting in the red at 103. If you compare that to his 3-round average of 77, well, that's a 26-point difference. His projected score is 95, so only looking to go down around 3,500 if that's the case. But going off his 3-round average, things aren't looking great, are they? I did mention before when I had a chat about Lockie Neal that I think that there's a small chance that Matt Rowell may even play a bit of a defensive role on him, similar to what Pendlebury did last week. That's simply a gut feel. Nothing really to back that up again, but I am definitely concerned with the pick. Now, I have changed my thinking during the week. Originally, I was going to hold, but now I think that I am going to trade. Now, the main reasons are is that the bloke just has no outside game, and it's been well documented. 5 marks for the year, not getting on the spread, and just has opponents hanging off him every time he gets a ball, and this often leads to ineffective disposals, or at times he can't even dispose of the ball at all. Apart from his round 1 monster, he's only gone over 100 once, and he relied on 13 tackles to get there in that game. I remember in round 1, he looked so desperate, throwing his body around, then spreading, found so much of the football. But we haven't seen it since. He's only averaged 18.5 disposals per game in the last month, also given away a total of 12 free kicks against in the last month, which is high. It's so tough. It seems like if I trade him out, he's going to go bang and deliver an absolute monster. But if I keep on to him, he's going to start to lose money. Other people are going to jump on a premium who's going to start to deliver some great scores or rise in price. And I'll be sort of left in no man's land with this pick. So at this stage, I am jumping off, but it's completely up to you. I'm still not feeling great about it. Now, Luke Parker, interesting, suddenly becomes Supercoach relevant now that he's available to be selected as a forward. We've already seen the good and the bad with his scoring, with a massive 167 in round 1 where he kicked 5, and then down to a 39 in round 4 against North. A couple of 70s in rounds 2 and 3, and then a 123 last week where he got 26 touches, laid 5 tackles, and also kicked the 2 snags, which was, obviously really, really great for his score. Playing that forward mid-roll as expected. His lack of consistency, I think, puts him off my radar for now. But if he hits form, and this is consistent form, he may be an option, I think, and does certainly have the potential to finish in the top 10 forwards from here on. Another thing to consider is that he does share the same bye as the Dogs, so Dunkley, English, Treloar, Heaney will all be missing from our forward lines come the round 13 bye. Probably a few too many primos to carry into that round on the one line, but again, this is team dependent. And danger, unfortunately, I've got a new symbol here. It's the train wreck symbol because, well, apart from a stellar round 1, it's been a train wreck of a pick. On to the midfielders under 250k. Erasmus, don't think he returns to the side this week. Job security is probably too shaky to consider trading him in, I think anyway, for over 160k. Nick Martin continues to score well and an easy on-field option. A smart player, couple of opportunities in the first, kicked one, missed one, 34 points at quarter time. A minute and a half, I think it was, into the second, banged through his second to shoot him up to 47 points, but acquired a third and a few turnovers in the fourth, which was disappointing, but still a really, really respectable 76 points and plenty of cash to make. Now, I know at times we get extremely frustrated with the Supercoach gods, but Nick Martin has been a great gift. Windhager on the bubble, but a pass for me, not really interested. Same as McKenty. A sub-affected score doesn't help, but job security will always be shaky. Dill Stevens, hopefully he's back sooner rather than later for owners. I'm not too sure. Reef had a half-decent game, converted some opportunities, also missed some gettable ones. At almost 160k for a 50 average, just don't see the value now. Now, Josh Ward, I'm losing patience with him, I must admit. You know, when is that big score coming? Hopefully in the next couple of weeks for owners. On the bright side, it was his highest score of the year with a 65, so that in itself shows how underwhelming his season has been. Almost every other rookie we've started has given us at least one decent game of an 80 plus, but this bloke hasn't. He's got the role that we want, getting the CBAs. It's pretty much the same old story, but I think he did leave a few points on the table here with some things that just didn't quite go his way. He did work his way into the game after a poor start and had a pretty decent last quarter. Ended with 18 disposals, half of those were contested, and did have the second most clearances for the Hawks. I've got itchy trade fingers with Ward, but I've done a bit of a backflip just for now from my round review and decided to hold on to him for at least another week. But I understand if you want to chop him this week in order to make some other moves. His teammate McDonald had the 16 touches, 9 of those were contested. After a really low scoring game last week, he went back to his typical 50 type score that we expect from him. A really slow burn, but as a small bonus, he's most likely opened up a mid-forward swing for us with his new DPP status, And Jackson Mead, granted forward, mid-DPP. That's awesome for owners, but should be on the chopping block, I think, in the near future. Onto the rucks, and at 204k with a negative break-even of 93, Braden Prus is the man everyone is talking about. He sits at the top of the list this week after serving his 1 week suspension, and he's now ready to return. Scores of 109 versus Wits, 102 versus Darcy is fantastic against two strong opponents. I think he really did almost beat them at their own game. He's looking to rise 200k in the blink of an eye. We all know the risks. That's injury, suspension, obviously Flynn as competition. But if Flynn isn't named, he's close to a must-have. If Flynn is named alongside Preuss, then he isn't as appealing. Look, I'm bringing him in, but we do have another option next week, and that's Sam Hayes. I actually had a brilliant discussion on Twitter with Dave Traeger and Daryl Hall. So Dave was saying that, look, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for Hayes, and I'm looking to pass on Preuss. And some of the reasons that he gave were really, really valid and gave me a lot of food for thought. So firstly, it frees up 80k. Hayes has almost no competition with Lycett out for the medium to almost long term. He could make as much coin as the bar is lower. It's too much money having Preuss at R3 on your bench. Also, 1 more week, if we can wait for Hayes, allows us to have our other cows grow. So if you're looking to trade out someone like a Dixon, which I wouldn't recommend anyway, it would give him, another week to make, 20 to 30k more even. So there's great points either way. It's such a tough discussion. I know the great man Katter, he's waiting for Hayes, and I really respect his opinion. But at the moment, I'm still going with Preuss. I just think that short-term cash gen is just too good to refuse. Hayes, I'm a little bit worried about his tank. Ran out of puff during the game, but at the same time, as we've already mentioned, the bar is lower. If he can score around the 70 mark, he'll still make a lot of cash. So a really, really tough one. Either way that you go, I completely understand. But for me, I'm bringing Preuss in this week. Will it pay off? Yeah, we'll wait and see. But hopefully that helped you to make your decision anyway. Hugh Dixon, he's got more cash to make with a break-even in the negative. Definite hold for now. Then we're just flipping the times right. Jack Hayes, this bloke's so good. It's a shame he hasn't been in the system for longer. As many of us expected, stepped up in the absence of Ryder and reclaimed his spot back on the side. Set the tone early with a nice hard ball get and goal assist in the opening quarter to another Jack in Higgins. Did a bit of everything, was impactful, and ended up with another 100+ score. Congrats if you won the rookie roulette. As usual, I didn't, but if only Ryder was out long term, that would be great for Hayes. But in current form, he will be hard to drop. But I have said that already, though, mind you, and he was dropped, so don't listen to me on that one. Bayley Williams, a pretty easy pass for me. Low score on the weekend. No Nick Nat, obviously, which means good things for his job security. But I just, and this is only personal opinion, don't rate him that highly. Jared Witts, still some cash to make with a break-even of 38. He's been good for me without being amazing. Some view him as a keeper, but I'm not sure he goes high enough to compete with the best. I may even look to make a wacky move involving Witts next week. I won't say what it is for now. It's a bit risky, but I will consider it next week. Consider it, I say. He had No, I won't go into it now. He had a solid first quarter, 30 points. Thought Marshall got the best of him, though, in that quarter, but he was on 4 points more at the end of the first, but then faded a little. What hurt him this week wasn't necessarily his lack of hitouts, but the fact he only obtained 9 possessions and went at 44% efficiency. Tristan Cherry, great game from him. I tell you what, things were looking good early on when in the fourth ruck contest of the game, it was Cherry versus Dunkley. Then in the next contest, he was up against Norton, but he did miss an easy uncontested mark, which lost him points. And in the first, I think he was simply beaten by English. Just couldn't go with him. However, in the second quarter, just dominated at the start. Kicked a goal after a holding free against English in the ruck contest, then kicked it long into the 50 to set up a goal for Zeeble. 7 disposals in the first 10 minutes, if you don't mind, and led a consecutive 3-goal streak from the Roos. Really did lift his side, and at that point, he did get to within 7 points of English and had rocketed to 57, then was given a rest. Then basically all that he did in the next 10 minutes was give a free kick again. Ended that quarter on 49 somehow. I'm guessing maybe a couple of taps must have been sharked. Then another consistent second half, and the big man ended up on 103 points, punishing those that jumped the gun and traded him out last week. We knew that he was going to be awarded ruck status, and this now opens up some really, really handy swings. Marshall, not going to go through his stats and give a really big analysis because we know he can score well without Ryder. He's got one more week as the main man in the ruck, then I wouldn't be too surprised to see his scoring start to dip again. Definitely hold for one more week while Ryder is out, then it's up to you what you want to do from there. Max Gawn is starting to haunt those that traded him out, probably unless he went to English. Was on 2 points with 5 minutes to go in the first. I did a little celebration as a night owner, and then in the next 5 minutes, get 16 quick points. It's just what he can do. Started the second quarter up forward, another 5-minute period of dominance, kicking a goal, clunking some marks, and all of a sudden on 40 points. Finished on 60 for the half, but just did everything this game. Contested marks, goals, over 20 disposals, 25 hitouts. Just brilliant from the big man. Attended 16 CBAs, so a bit of a split there, but it all resulted in him banging out a 130. Gawn and English seem to be the clear R1 and R2 at this point in time. Luke Jackson, only 60 points this week, 11 CBAs, kicked a goal, but I think owners would be expecting and wanting a little bit more. On to Timmy English, he was the man I was going to bring in for Cripps this week. Looked awesome in the first couple of minutes, too athletic for Cherry on the spread. Had a 45-point first quarter, and that could have been more if he converted his shot for goal after the siren. Then minimal impact in the second, convincingly beaten by Cherry. Copped some sort of a knock and was down for a few seconds. I didn't quite see what happened there, and that may have had something to do with his poor second. Now, did pick things up in the third, kicked a goal, ended the game with 22 disposals, 6 clearances, 1 goal, 1, and 138 points. A really hard player not to own. I'm now viewing him as a must-have, and at this stage, I'll be trading him in this week. The fact that he can swing into the ruck is really handy in case someone like a Grundy continues to underperform, and I just think that he will be absolutely locked in as, let's just say, a top 4 forward this year. So I'm really big on Tim English. I think it's all good to bring him in this week. Rob, no real reason to consider him. With all the other ruck options, we pretty much have an irrelevant pod, I think, on our hands here. No disrespect, though, to the big man. Now, a big talking point in the ruck this week. We've already talked about Braden Prus, but it's Brodie Grundy. His lowest score in 8 years has some coaches pulling the trigger and saying goodbye to the multi-million-dollar man. If we go back to last week, he was averaging around 108, below par for sure, but not disaster zone type stuff. But to be honest, this week just didn't look that interested, averaging around 96 now. Some are saying a bit of a lack of effort, a lack of motivation, didn't lay a tackle against the Lions. We've all been making excuses for him during the COVID lockdowns of 2020 and 2021, but what's the excuse for his poor form now? That's the question. On the weekend, had the 26 hitouts, 14 touches, unfortunately went at 42%, and if you're only touching it 14 times, then that equates basically to 6 effective disposals. No wonder, it was a score in the 50s. One positive was that he had 7 clearances. That was nice. Now, another positive with owning Grundy is his upcoming fixture. I'll read out his last 3 scores against Essendon, Gold Coast, and Richmond. So 153, 83, and 151 against Essendon, 144, 105, and 121 against Gold Coast, and then against the Tigers, a 140, 115, and a 137. That's some nice reading, and that's why I'm holding for now. If he goes sub-ton again on Anzac Day, then major red flags start to emerge. But history suggests that he'll bounce back, but obviously history can be rewritten. And Big Sean Darcy got the Shrek symbol on him as a bit of an ode to my man Eno, who has never lost faith in the big man. Finally delivered for the Gunners and punched out his best score of the year with a 121. Had no disposals but 4 hitouts to advantage in the first quarter, but then a nice strong contested intercept mark in the second in front of Draper, which set up a goal at the other end. 7 disposals in the second, so worked his way into the game, particularly around the ground. Nice goal in the third, and added another 7 disposals to be on 93 points at 3/4 time. Missed an easy set shot in the fourth, so should have had at least 3 goals, if not 4. Still has a high break even, so I'm not considering yet. I need to see more, and he's always going to be a bit of a durability risk, but when he's on, he has the potential to be the highest SuperCoach scorer in the comp. He'll give us 160 this year, just a matter of when. And on to the 500k plus forwards. I've only got 4 on the list this week. At the top, Isaac Heaney in ripping form. I wasn't happy with Horse leaving him on the bench for the last 14 minutes of the game when there were so many points on offer for the Sydney forwards in the last quarter drubbing. He's done exactly what I wanted though from him since trading him in, and I always expected him to have a strong couple of weeks. The best thing is that he doesn't need a lot of the ball to score well, just the 16 touches, but did kick the 3 goals. 6 tackles also shows that he's putting some defensive pressure on the opposition. Nothing to say that there isn't another 100 plus coming this week and looking like a lock for a top 6 forward. So still some value to be had. He's fine to trade in this week. Timmy Taranto is another good forward option that you can bring in if you want to. It will be interesting to see how Toby Green's inclusion into the side affects him. Many people avoided him as a starting pick because of Toby's absence, but now that he's back, naturally he should become a more appealing option to many people. On the weekend, 29 touches and 4 tackles, but only the 92 points. But again, that seems to be around his floor. I do like a few others ahead of him, namely Heaney, English, Dunkley, Butters, but he may be on par with a De Goey type pick. If he spends a majority of his time in the midfield this week and delivers a decent score, he becomes a tantalising prospect in the next few weeks when we are looking to upgrade. Libera's been given DPP status, which is evident in his lack of CBAs. If a few dogs do go down in the middle and he's required there full time, then he automatically becomes a top 6 forward contender, but in his current role, I think that's questionable. Track him, see how he goes, but another Bulldog option in our forward line is always good, I suppose. But how many can we have? Dunks, English, Treloar, and now Libba. Could it actually work after the buys? It'd be interesting to see. Dunkley, another one of his teammates, only the 1 kick and 5 handballs to half time, 4 tackles though. The trend continued and ended up with just the 23 disposals for 100 points, just scraped there. Still tackling, which is good. That probably got him to triple figures, but underperforming for his capabilities. We all have him. I wouldn't be chucking the VC on him though. Just leave that one for Jack McRae. On to the forwards, 250 500k. Will Brodie sits at the top of the list this week. Elite with his hands, a huge strength of his. That's why he's got the hand symbol on him this week. Highly involved early on. Continued on from last week with 9 disposals in the first quarter, half contested, as well as 4 clearances. Really slowed down in the second with only the 3 disposals. And yep, surprise, surprise, 65% time on ground. So frustrating. But then to start the third, a tackle and a long ball into 50 to lob to getting up to 44 points. And then just improve from there, finishing with 26 touches, 9 clearances, and 94 points. Time on ground actually went down slightly and was 63% at the end of the game. He's made a bucket load of cash, giving us consistently high scores for his price. And his job security, that's as good as any at the moment. So he's looking to go up another 40k this week, which is just a beautiful thing. Really happy for him that he's been able to turn his career around, and really happy that I started him in my side. McLean, career best game from him over the weekend, but don't get sucked in. His other scores this year, they read 74, which is okay, but then a 57, 44 and a 51. A trap if I've ever seen one, but respect for Hayden for a ripping performance against the Eagles. Joshua Shelley, one of the most talented players in the comp. We've been saying that for the last 5 weeks, but inconsistent with his scoring. Still has money to make with his low break even, but maybe on the chopping block soon. If he gives us a sub 50 this week, we may look to move him on. Remember though, he will have spike games, so a couple of 90 plus scores in a row, and the cash gen, that gets flowing again. Jay Gresham, flying under the radar, this bloke, already made over 115k for those who started him. Never seriously considered him myself, but the Gresham's even laying some keeper claims here. I don't have him in my top 8 to 10 personally, but I suppose if people view Brodie as a keeper with his 99 average, then we need to have the conversation with Gresham's 97 average, currently 10th for total points out of all forwards. Not sure if he can keep it up. Only the one failure against Freo with a 51, but apart from that, he hasn't gone under 3 figures. If we take that low score out, which I know is easy to do, but just for argument's sake, his average is actually 108.5. That might surprise some people because when I was doing my research, it certainly surprised me. Not someone I'll look to bring in, but the pick certainly deserves some respect. Charlie Curnow was in my preseason team for a long time, but got scared off with his minor preseason injury or injury scare. It was, we'll give you some great games and some poor games, but looks to be a successful selection that has sort of gone under the radar a little as well, similar to Gresham. If he manages to pull, say, a 90 plus this week, he'll officially be a great starting pick and will have made you 150k. Also good to see him kick accurately against Port with 5 goals won. And Naish just continues to impress, one of the better rookie options this year, and one that the majority missed. No way that you jump on, but if you own, of course you hold, and congratulations. Dow, pretty much in the same boat as Naish. The big text, is this going to be a repeat of last year where he started like a house on fire and really did become one of the most talked about selections early on? Never say never. We couldn't have asked much more from him. 5-2 against the Tigers for 116 points. 4 goals straight the week before against Essendon and almost managed to get his team home. That's 9 goals in 2 weeks. Certainly got his kicking boots on. The main difference this year is obviously his starting price. Doesn't present near as much value. It's passed from me as I don't love his upcoming fixture. Some solid teams in the Dogs, Carlton, Brisbane, St Kilda and Geelong in his next 6. Rioli, 9 touches, 35 points, but no impact really on the weekend. And Zachy Butters, new symbol for him this week, bounce back and punish those who lost the faith after 2 poor scores. I could just tell in the first quarter they'd look back to his best, had a few 1-2s, 9 disposals, did miss a goal on the run, but just seemed to have his spark back, had a couple of nervous moments, a bad turnover in the second led to a McKay goal, but still managed to get a respectable 50 points at half time. Great contested intercept mark in the third, really got his scoring going again, kicked a nice snag, went right through the middle, worked his butt off, and a big leader in their second half resurgence. He did have a hard collision with Marshall in the third. He had like an outstretched arm, was clutching his shoulder. I just put my hands over my eyes, I couldn't look, but he bounced back and didn't really seem to bother him too much. But that shoulder, similar to Berry, does worry me, but it is what it is. Ended up with 32 disposals, 522 metres gained. So great to see the young man is thanking us for holding. Jordan De Goey, I've got an 8 ball on him, a lot of potential as we know, a ripper of a game against my boys at the Gabba, booting 4 goals, also had 4 clearances, so damaging multiple roles, highest metres gained for the Pies with 581, and a lot to like from his performance, really bounced back after missing last week. I think this is a good time to jump on if you trust him, and that's an if. Gone up 17k so far, but looking to get close to 500k after this week if he can hit his projected score of 110 against the Dons on Anzac Day. I've got a bit of a gut feel that he'll have a big game this week. Nothing to back that up, just a feeling, but a relative pod in only 8% of teams, so if you like him, go for it, but obviously okay to look elsewhere. Dylan Moore just continues to impress, 4 goals on the weekend for 90 points. We can't really select him, but one of Hawthorn's best plays in my opinion. Tommy Pushkins, another Shooting Stars meme created for him this week and thoroughly deserved. They're the best. Just piss myself laughing every time I see one. But come on, Tommy, stop faking, mate. You're good enough to win the ball on your own accord. Couldn't help but to give him his own staging symbol this week. 3 goals, 73 points against the Hawks. No as a Supercoach selection. Will be a roller coaster as usual. Rioli, his quietest game of the year to date with only 64 points, just didn't get enough of it with 16 touches, only 2 Tigers hit the ton this week, so a bad round overall for the whole team Supercoach wise. Cogs, along with Whitfield, gathered 11 disposals in the first quarter, finished on 40 points, was in everything, looking to make up for his poor game last week, slowed down a little to finish with 96 points, playing midfield as well as rotating forward. Only the 23 touches, but did have 8 tackles. Borderline keeper for mine. We just hold for now and reassess in the coming weeks. Adam Treloar, 28 touches for his 103 Supercoach points. I've got the 8 ball on him, as he does have the potential, but personally, I don't trust his hammies. Zach Bayley hit the ton, and a great game from him on the weekend. Looked really dangerous. Kicked the 3 goals, could have had 4. Also had the 4 clearances, so playing some mid-time as well as spending time up forward. In good form, which is great, but probably not the most reliable option, I don't think, to bring in at this stage. And Mitchie Duncan, 25 touches on the weekend for a 95. If you can put in a couple of nice performances in the next couple of weeks, he could be someone you look to bring in, but age and durability do concern me. At the same time, not writing him off. As I said, just put him on your watch list. And we'll finish with the forwards under 250k. Apologies if I have mumbled some words. It is getting very, very late at this stage, and I know that I have butchered a few things during the video. Apologies, I just don't have the time to edit it, but we will finish off now. At the top of the list this week is the best buy in our forward line under 250k, Malcolm Roses. In round 4 against the Blues, scored 74 points, gathered 12 touches at 80%, had the 1 tackle, hit the scoreboard with 3 goals. That was with 64% time on ground. Against the Saints last week, he was awarded 73 points for gathering 15 touches, 9 contested, laid an impressive 7 tackles, so that defensive pressure was right up, which would have impressed the coaching staff, I think. Great to see he's working hard without the ball, hit the scoreboard, but was inaccurate with 2 behinds. Again, had low time on ground with 60%. That's not fantastic, but it does show that he does have good points per minute. Would love to see that Tog get closer to the 70% mark, though. He is at a slightly elevated price, as he actually played 3 games in 2020, scored 21, 41 and 21. Nothing to like about that, I know, but I wouldn't be focusing on this. I'd be focusing more on his recent form rather than that small sample size from last year. It's interesting that he had different scoring avenues in both games, one through a really high tackle count and the other through kicking a few snags, so a nice variation there. Attended a couple of CBAs on the weekend also, which could be a possible bonus with the pick. Certainly a lot to like. The main issue is that he plays forward for Gold Coast, almost a guarantee that he'll throw a poor score in here or there. He's been very consistent with his scoring so far, though, which is a plus for him. It depends on your personal circumstances whether or not you bring him in. Most of us don't have too many underperforming forwards, so that makes it tough. DPP may be needed to make it happen. Is he must have? No. It's tough because Braden Prus is obviously a really big target for us this week, so it may be a choice of the two. I don't think that Roses is an absolute must-have, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think that Prus is either. Either way that you go, I think that you're getting a good moneymaker in. He's going to be a solid option, Roses, and if you're looking for a forward downgrade this week, because don't forget, Prus is obviously a ruck. If you've got a different situation there and you're not looking for a ruck, I think this is definitely the bloke to bring in if you are downgrading. Durden I like as a player, just hold for now. Had a nice little left foot snap for goal over the weekend, and I was never a fan of trading in Gallant. He'll be a slow burn, and his break-even is starting to rise. So that's it from me for now, guys. Hope that you have a ripper of a week. All the best with your trade-in and trade-out options, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Cheers, bye.